So I want to get into the incredible new Battleground video he's got up at projectveritas.com. We're going to play the audio and video here for radio listeners / TV listeners. But I wanted to just bring this up to you and get your take on this clear selective enforcement purge, both men saying not guilty, and the fact that they're subpoenaing you and the sharks are now circling you, buddy.
Yeah, Alex, this is something I've had to contend with for a couple years. You know, they're targeting journalists in this country, and they've been targeting. We've spoken before about how I've been subpoenaed, I've been audited. Last year, I was audited by the IRS. I have a small charity. We have an office in Westchester, New York, and now Governor Cuomo issued a subpoena to us yesterday, where they're talking about commanding me to appear and give every single financial transaction over the last 3 years of an organization that makes less than $1 million a year. They're demanding general ledgers, journals, cash books, and payroll records and everything else. And because I'm a journalist and I have undercover journalists working for me, you know, the state of New York has a history of leaking people's information to the press.
Oh, yeah, they publish concealed permit holders' names in the paper.
They did that. There was also an incident that happened with the tax office a couple of years ago where they leaked information to the press. 5 New York State Department of Taxation and Finance employees say their tax returns were unlawfully audited and leaked to the New York Post. In Louisiana, my information was leaked to the press. The U.S. attorneys resigned in disgrace. This is all public information. But when I'm afraid of they're obviously targeting me. It's obviously political. And, you know, they're subpoenaing me. And I think it's a disgrace, not just that they're doing it, but the journalists in this country don't care. They're not interested in reporting.
Well, in fact, not that they just don't care and have no instinct for freedom. They are now slating others, making fun of us, worried about D'Souza, and making jokes about you and I. We're being attacked for being real journalists on the cutting edge of liberty. I mean, if they arrested Michael Moore like this, I wouldn't put up with it.
No, it's unbelievable. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, it's D'Souza. They're indicting D'Souza. They're indicting McDonald. For me, it's not even an indictment, but there is no concern from the Columbia Journalism Review or the New York Times. They like the fact that people are being targeted by the government. They like that because it's people that they don't agree with, and I think it's gotten really bad. It's going to get worse, and I think it's not just going to be something against me. It's going to affect a lot more people, as you pointed out. Pretty soon they're going to be going after people like Glenn Beck. They're going to be going after those types. They think they can come after me because I'm small and because I have a small charity and I'm tax exempt. But sooner or later, they're going to come after big people too.
And by the way, you've been thrown in jail before exposing their shenanigans.
Yeah, they actually, a federal judge, a judge named Stanley Duvall in Louisiana for the Fifth Circuit, was the federal judge. He called me, basically insinuated that I was a terrorist for walking into a federal building with a camera. That's why I was a terrorist. And then the magistrate judge destroyed the videotape that I took from inside that federal building. And the press just went along for the ride. And this is what I write about in Breakthrough. It's this crazy story about everything that has happened to me. And like you pointed out, Alex, I walk a fine line because on one hand, I want to tell Americans sort of what I've been through. On the other hand, I don't want to scare them because this stuff is really, really scary, but it's also very true.
Well, let me tell you, if you don't know there's a tyranny, folks, go out and fight it and you'll find out real quick. Now, usually they end up running from you in fear, but if you get really effective, I mean, how many billions did their crime machine lose when you brought down Akron?
Well, they were allocated to receive as much as $5 billion in the stimulus package.
And we're going back to James O'Keefe of Project Veritas. You got cut off there, but yeah, the Democrats are openly in the paper bragging about how they're going around with Battleground Texas, telling them what to say and what not to say. And for those that don't know, we're going to play a 2-minute clip of Wendy Davis, the abortion queen, and all the rest of it. But please continue.
So I'm just saying that, you know, the impact, you know, the bad news is they're going to come after us. They're going to put us in jail, and they're going to indict us, intimidate us, and most importantly, deter people from recruiting. I recruit citizen journalists. We have dozens of people across the country. They want to stop my volunteers from getting involved because they want to make an example out of me. So the good news is that front page of the Austin Statesman yesterday, there's an article said James O'Keefe targets Battleground Texas. And you have Wade Rathke, who founded Acorn and now represents Local 100 there in Texas, saying that He's having weekly meetings with his organizers, putting out instructions on how to identify possible O'Keefe associates and reporters in their offices. So they're on the lookout for us. In fact, one quote from this article, this is on the front page of the Austin Statesman, says that Battleground Texas has sought to keep 10,000 volunteers from saying or doing anything fraudulent that might play into my hands. That's a direct quote. So these people are on the lookout for our undercover cameras. That's how you know we're making an impact.
And by the way, it's not playing into someone's hands when you go into acorn office after acorn office and say, here's my underage prostitute. I'm going to ship in child prostitutes, and I want the Democrats to help me run the scam. Oh, yes. In my experience, street-level Democrats are hoods, thugs, scammers. They're allowed to engage in every crime, every welfare crime you can imagine. But if a libertarian or a patriot has a literal crooked toenail, we go to jail. The way these laws are written, it is almost impossible to follow all the stinking laws the way they can interpret them. This is so huge. But then, look, you are the answer. I've been doing this 18 years. You've been doing this, I don't know, 6, 7 years. If people will emulate what you put in your book, Breakthrough, which is available on InfoWarsStore.com, if they will take that and do that in their area on issues and use YouTube and other platforms, the system is sensationally corrupt. And if we just go point cameras at them and ask them questions, they will expose themselves. All that evil men and tyrants need to flourish is that good men do nothing. Tell folks about Wendy Davis and some of the other big stuff you've got breaking, James O'Keefe.
So yeah, in the past week, there was a whole bunch of scandal in Texas about some comments directed at the Attorney General there regarding, I guess he's in a wheelchair, therefore people are making comments about how he can't stand with Wendy, et cetera, et cetera. So we have all this material on Battleground. Battleground Texas is a political action committee in the state of Texas that raises tens of millions of dollars from national Democratic money to try to flip Texas into a Democratic state. They're doing that by dispatching roughly 10,000 people in the state to register voters and sometimes commit fraud. So we caught some of their volunteers on tape disparaging disabled people, talking about how Greg Abbott is in a wheelchair. We want to stand with Wendy. First of all, he's in a wheelchair, and they're making all these comments about disabled people in this video, and it's actually put Wendy Davis on defense. She had to comment on Friday that these comments were abhorrent, and like you said, we don't need to advocate anything here. We're not picking sides. What we are doing is exposing the reality of who these people are, how they think, and how they view about people in the state of Texas.
You're absolutely right, but the fact that they're coming after us and the Republican leadership's trying to purge the Tea Party out of their ranks and trying to purge Ted Cruz and people shows that we're gaining ground and that we can win if we just continue to fight.
I think we have to expose reality. I mean, it's amazing how much we accomplish at Project Veritas. All we do is catch things on tape. And I think if we just did this more often, if we got all of them on tape, it would pretty much stop all the fraud. It's certainly deterring the fraud. They're admitting in this article here that they're on the lookout for undercover reporters. They're stopping the fraud. And I debated not releasing this video last week. I thought about waiting, but because it was in the news and because I wanted to stop the fraud before it happened. At the end of this video, if you look at the end of our YouTube video, there's a clip where one of the deputy voter registrars, her name is Lisa Wortham, she's an attorney in Dallas, and she is an official in Texas. You have to be officially deputized to register voters. And she says that she sees mail-in voter fraud happen all the time. She covers her ears when it's discussed in the meeting. And another one says, hey, that's illegal, but I never even heard you say that. This is on videotape. Before
we get back into Wendy Davis and other big stories you're working on, James O'Keefe, literally the model of resistance, small guerrilla teams of journalists just going out and exposing the incredible corruption. Let me ask you this question. Who do you think the Democrats really are, and what is their end game, and how can they be stopped? Or are they just too criminally powerful and too cunningly evil to be stopped?
Well, we've demonstrated with our reporting about the impact that we can have. I just said to you before the break, the front page Austin Statesman is reporting that Wade Rathke, the founder of Acorn, who's also managing the local 100 chapters there throughout Texas, he's actually spending the majority of his time training his people how to avoid being caught on my cameras, which is unbelievable. It's remarkable how much of an impact our little nonprofit is having compared to, say, the Republican Party or the political action committees across the country. I mean, we are quite literally putting them in a state of fear and paralysis. The Texas Tribune today has an article. It's called "Inside the O'Keefe Battleground Texas War." I mean, I'm just one citizen with a couple reporters with cameras, and I'm going against an organization with 10,000 volunteers.
You are a knight, literally taking the field against these scum, and that's what's so frustrating. If people would just do what you do and what I've done and just go out there and engage them, it is so easy.
People are very afraid, Alex, and the number one thing that I've discovered is that people are hopeless and afraid. And these are good, God-fearing, patriotic Americans come up to me, and they're so scared of what might happen to them. And my message to them is, look, I mean, yes, you're going to have to make some type of personal sacrifice. You're going to have to put yourself on the line. But my message is you can break through it. I mean, you can succeed. You can make an impact. You can survive their attacks. I think we just need to come together. And you asked me what, can they be stopped? I mean, I think reality is going to stop them. I think the truth is going to, I have faith in people. If they're given facts about the country they live in, they're going to make the right decisions. The problem is people are not educated because they don't really know what's going on.
No, I totally agree with you. And Hollywood is putting out the psychological bilge as a disabling mental virus, because if you are virtuous, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but somewhat virtuous, you don't like corruption, you don't like thugs, you don't like bullies, you don't like fraud, you're discerning, reality rules your life, and you just absolutely will reject the collectivist dependency squalor that these people create. And that's why they're trying to sexualize 5-year-olds. That's why they're having satanic rituals at the Super Bowl and at the Grammys. That's why they're doing this, is to screw us up. Now, shifting gears back into this clip, we're going to play this 2-minute clip that you were just mentioning that's up on your website if folks want to watch the whole thing, projectveritas.com, that again has them on the defense. And now in Battleground Texas, Soviet town Texas, they're unable to engage in their normal kleptocratic activities because you've gotten them off balance. Now they're unable to carry out their normal Chicago Mafia takeover.
That's exactly right. They're deterred from doing the type of thing. I mean, and the direct quote here is that they were talking about how, quote, Battleground has sought to keep 10,000 volunteers from saying or doing anything that might play into our hands. As you pointed out, that's a strange way of putting it. It's like, hey, you can commit the fraud, but just don't get caught committing the fraud. And that's exactly, well, from my opinion, that's fine. I mean, if they don't want to get caught committing the fraud, it means they're not going to be able to commit any fraud.
Meanwhile, I've studied campaign finance. I ran for the State House for 2 weeks until the lawyers explained there's no way to follow the law perfectly. And the establishment fat cats can do whatever they want. That's one way they control Congress. But if you ever get off the reservation, they will indict you. And it just comes down to this. We fight fair. While they're registering illegals, while they're getting foreign donors, Dinesh D'Souza is facing years in jail for bundling something that's questionable, if it even is illegal. Same thing with the governor. They're acting like, I'm not even a fan of Chris Christie, but they're acting like this bridge thing is bigger than Watergate, when meanwhile we've got Benghazi and we've got Fast and Furious and Salandra and all this stuff. I mean, it's incredible. What do you make, and then I want to play this clip, of Obama openly acting like a dictator now?
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's disgusting. I have 2 points. Number one, I think our war is not just against these government institutions, these attorney generals and the White House. It's also against the journalists who support them. Because if you're any self-respecting, dignified human being and a journalist, you would be outraged. You would drop everything you're doing to protect your profession. And these journalists are disgusting. They're a disgrace. I'm being targeted by the state of New York right now, and this New York State thing. I mean, Elliot Broidy got a slap on the wrist for stealing $250 million in New York State pension funds. They're coming after my less than $1 million C3 charity and auditing every statement going back 3 years. I don't have any words to describe it. And I have been through situations where I have been put in federal prison. I'm a journalist. And I was put in federal prison for being present in a federal building with a camera. And unless we can get our media institutions to be outraged, unless we can somehow provoke the press and get some type of ink nationally, we're in trouble. And that's when I'm trying to outrage people here. That's why I use the tactics that I use.
Sure. Well, Michael Hastings, before he died, said, look, Obama is evil, worse than Bush. We've got to organize the press together. They're waging war on us. We've got to wage war on them. They are so scared of the moral authority, forget left, right, it's right and wrong, coming together and defending the First Amendment. I mean, look how they're arresting journalists in China or in Russia. I'm against that. Now it's happening here, and the Democrat sites are laughing at us, and the commenters are like, good, we're going to arrest you all. And it's like, these people, I guarantee you, are wimps, number one. I mean, they've never sat there and really arrested somebody. They've never falsely charged someone, most of these people. They've never probably been in, like, a serious situation. And they're sitting back playing the part of, like, Gestapo gangsters, literally not understanding they're destroying their own future.
Well, I think the way to do it is not talk about policy or economics. These people don't care about that type of thing because they're fascists. So the way to do it is to talk about, do you know what it feels like? This is what I say to people on the left. I said, do you know what it feels like to have a federal judge destroy your evidence? To have the attorney general come after your journalists and try to leak that information to the press in New York? Do you know what it feels like to be in a wheelchair and be called cripple? Because that's what these people are saying. And I think if you take it from that perspective, the emotions, and if you connect with people like this Wendy Davis clip where she makes fun of handicapped people, that's how we can cross over. And I think that's the way to go, not to talk about tax policy and the like, but to appeal to people's emotions.
I agree, and their common sense and their sense of morality. I saw a quote, was it yesterday or today? Was it the U.S. attorney or state attorney saying horrible things about you? What was that quote?
Well, the attorney general of New York, Andrew Cuomo, is issuing me a subpoena, but I've dealt with so many of the attorney generals, I lose track. Which did you see? I
just saw the quote. It was calling you a bunch of names and stuff. It was totally prejudicing themselves. I think it was the attorney general in New York.
Yeah, Cuomo and his Department of Labor is going after me, and we use undercover reporters. They want the names of the people, and I'm happy to comply with any audit. I went through an audit last year with the IRS. I was found to be completely compliant. But you know how these people are. They can manufacture scandal by just creating obfuscation about your finances. So I'm doing the best I can. But
well, I mean, here's the deal. They're trying to not let libertarian constitutionalists, real conservatives organize and raise money. And they always demonize me because I sell products to fund ourselves. How do people think this goes? George Soros is spending billions to try to overthrow Eastern Europe. I mean, look at the Ukraine right now. George Soros is trying to fund, groups to destabilize this country because they know we're on the edge of revolution. They want to make it a commie revolution. We have got to stand behind Project Veritas. People have got to get your book, Breakthrough. They've got to emulate what you've done, even if it's going to city council and asking questions, starting a blog. You never know, folks, as millions of us start targeting them as real press, we will fill the vacuum that the dinosaur media hasn't filled. And James, look at the dinosaur media already dying. MSNBC lost half its viewers 2 years ago. They lost half of their viewers again. Soon they'll have no viewers. So really, they are becoming extinct. And I think their offensive attacks and their attempt to get everything done now is a desperate attempt by the establishment.
No, there was a time, Alex, when people would view someone like me and say, well, he's being subpoenaed, indicted, he must be some type of crazy. But in fact, now 90% of people actually can read between the lines and realize that it's almost all political at this point. Anytime someone gets indicted who's in politics, it's almost always a political. We live in I'm an enemy of the state. We live in strange times where they're using political prosecution. I am not exaggerating. It's a politically motivated prosecution process now, where people who they disagree with, journalists they don't like, they try to put them in jail.
They're trying to put a top Fox News reporter in jail because he talked to one of the State Department people on record about North Korea and is North Korea really capable of launching an attack? That's what a journalist is supposed to do.
But that's why the debate about what is journalism and who is a journalist is central. Just like with the abortion debate, what is a human life or when does it begin? That's all central.
But you heard Dianne Feinstein. She will judge who a journalist is now if she gets her bill passed, and they'll strip everyone else. Let's play this clip, get a final comment on anything else, and then let you go. I know you've got stuff to do. Project Veritas, James O'Keefe. Here is the latest video making national news with the globalist tart, Wendy Davis, the abortion queen, making jokes about the Attorney General, who, by the way, is fighting carbon taxes, fighting the shutdown of our power plants, fighting Agenda 21. I know people that know him personally. He's a really good guy, and that's why they hate him. Here it is.
Battleground Texas, a group that is formed to turn Texas blue.
A group of Obama campaign alumni formed Battleground Texas with the thought that if they can turn Texas blue nationally, Republicans will struggle to win presidential elections.
This is Will Davies with Battleground Texas. There's an enthusiasm level which I was just unprepared for.
And I'm really wondering how this is going to work out since he's in a wheelchair and most of the slogans are stand with Wendy. That's in our subconscious now. So it's interesting to me from a psychological point of view how it's going to play out.
And here you all are 11 months before the campaign election day to work on our behalf. And you are the secret weapon. You are the secret weapon.
Yeah, election fraud.
Someone that she's too stupid to be governor.
Yeah.
Battleground had to tell her that, we're going to support you, and we had to convince her.
What I think is amazing is he's in a wheelchair, but he has no sympathy for anyone or anyone. He may have a personality disorder.
First of all, not good looking. He doesn't speak very well. He doesn't have a good personality, and he's in a wheelchair.
We're at Battleground Texas today. Have y'all heard of us?
Yes. I'm getting new people registered, making sure that people know exactly how to vote.
Are you registered to vote?
For Wendy?
No, just in general.
You've got a Wendy Davis sticker right behind it.
I do.
I'm not registering to vote for her.
My husband is not politically active. We had received absentee forms, and I just found his name on one. I mean, is that okay?
I don't think that's legal, but I'll do like Lisa did. I didn't hear you say that.
You do.
Do it all the time.
And again, think about how these idiots that were supporters of Obama, and that doesn't mean support even Romney, that's how it's rigged. They've all been conned by Obama. He's lied to them on every front, and they still don't care. And you look in their eyes, they are the dumbest, stupidest people. But then they're always led by these weak but also evil control freaks that really do want to take over society. James O'Keefe, any other comments about the work you've got going on or things that are happening in the news? And the next shoe to drop.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely, I put on Facebook because Cuomo was issuing me a subpoena. I said, well, first of all, I'm leaving New York. I have an office in New York. I'm going to leave New York. And I'll follow Hannity's lead because he said he's leaving New York too. I'll leave New York and I'll move to a different state. And then I'll launch an investigation into Cuomo's office. That's one of the things I'm going to do. I'm going to investigate Andrew Cuomo in New York State. In terms of Battleground Texas, we have about 100, 200 hours of raw footage that we're cutting down. Jeremy Bird, President Obama's national field director, said, quote, O'Keefe should get 0 ink in any respectable newspaper. So I'm telling Jeremy Bird on Twitter right now, we have Jeremy Bird on tape. We have him on tape, Obama's national field director. We also have a number of other Battleground people on tape committing voter fraud. So we'll be releasing those videos one at a time and forcing the media to talk about what we expose.
Oh, so that's breaking. You've got more on these guys.
Yes. We even have Jeremy Bird himself on videotape. We have many people in Battleground Texas on tape, and we're going to be releasing those one at a time over the coming 10 months.
Well, years ago when I was involved in Republican Party stuff with Pat Buchanan and then libertarians, we talk about how to convince people that our ideology is better. We don't talk about fraud and scams and underage hookers. And it's crazy when I've gone to Democratic meetings and covered them. It's basically always a circus. These people are freaks.
They're freaks, and the one thing that we got to do is just expose the fact that they are freaks. It's jujitsu, Alex. You take their strength, you turn it into a weakness.